Hi everybody, it's Tamara from Etcetera, and as promised, here's part 2 of, this isn't really a book haul. These are some of the books that I normally pull from when I'm making my junk journals, and so I just thought I'd share, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas of different kinds of books that you can use when you're making your junk journals. So, first up, I thought I would just show you, these are a couple of desk calendars that I had at work that are old. Obviously, this one's 2010, this one's 2012. So I just recently started using some of the images in these because it's not too much of a glossy paper, and they're nice, just little, they've got, sort of trivia and interesting facts and that type of thing. So they're great when you, if you want to make a travel journal, or if you know somebody's going on a trip somewhere soon, like I did in my last journal, pull some specific images from that. And then this one, I haven't pulled too many of these images yet because actually I just love them so much. This is one of my favorite desk calendars that I had. It's radiographs, and let me just remind myself, it's almost like taking an x-ray of a flower, sort of, and so that's what all the images are in here. So the flowers sort of look almost see-through. They're just beautiful. So I'm almost thinking I might just cut them out and put them in frames. But there's so many of them. I can pull some of them for journals. Look at that, so pretty. Yeah, so sometimes I pull from calendars. I use big calendars as well. I like to use them for like the covers of signatures, but those little ones work as well. This is a great little book. I don't even remember where I picked this up. A Garland of Love, Daily Reflections on the Magic and Meaning of Love. So it's sort of like a calendar. You're supposed to read a page every day kind of thing. And so I've been pulling from this a lot, actually. I usually put one or two, usually just one of these in every journal. And it's just got a nice little reflective thing to read and think about. So yeah, it's a nice little book. Poems, I like to use poems. So I've got a couple of books of poems. This one's nice because the paper is kind of yellowed and old looking, and it has some sort of natural patina around the edges. So again, I try to pick poems that sort of match the person that I'm giving the journal to, because I don't normally, so far, I haven't sold any journals. I just give them away as gifts. So I can really personalize them. What else do I have here? I'll leave that one till after maybe. So this is probably the book that I use the most in all of my journals. Partly because it's in French. Partly because the paper is just so great. It's sort of yellowed. It's got a nice little darkness around the edges. So you can see I've cut out a lot of pages, and sometimes I just use the whole page. Lots of times I cut it up and I use it to make tags or little tuck spots and that type of thing. Yeah, I'll miss this book when it's done because it's not going to take too much longer before that's finished. This is also, so this started out, I used the cover of this book to make, whoops, out of frame here. I used the cover of this book to make a junk journal. And then, so of course when you do that method, when you deconstruct books, then you're left with the insides, and that's a lot of paper and bookends and everything else. So this one is also in French. I just started using it a little bit more in my books and making tags with it. The only reason I don't use it more is because the paper is quite white, but I think now that the temperature is getting a little bit warmer outside, I like to do my paper dyeing outside and then let it dry in the sun. So the snow, although it's supposed to snow tomorrow, April, it's the end of April right now, like April 26th maybe. Yeah, and it's still supposed to snow, but hopefully that'll be done soon for many reasons. And I can get out there and start making paper and coffee and tea staining papers, and then that's what I'll do with a lot of the papers from this book, and that should help. And I'll probably end up using that quite a lot then. And of course, probably every junk journaler has at least one atlas, and this is just, I know I had this, this isn't the one I had when I was in school, but I had one exactly like this in elementary school. So that's great to just pull a few pages. It adds a little bit of color. Speaking of, this is another one where the insides were left over. It was just I used the cover to make a journal, and then I was left with, whoops, I keep going out of frame, this book. And what is really great, I mean, it has some color images inside, but that's not what I've been using. What I've been using are these great maps at the back. Maps of Brussels and Belgium. Oh, and Luxembourg, I guess. Yeah, so those are great. And then, again, this is the insides of a book that I used the cover. And there's nothing that special about it, except I noticed that the font is just a little bit different than what you normally see. It's not your regular Arial 10 or 12 or whatever. It's, I don't know what it is, but it's just something just a little bit fancier. So I've started using that to make tags as well. Especially when it's italicized, it gets quite pretty actually. See right there. So that's something to think about, is, looking at the type of font in the book when you want to use the pages. And again, and this is nice, thick, soft paper, and I think I'll try dyeing some of those pages. Okay, and then lastly, just another book here about different things about France and life in France, and I thought that would be interesting to throw into some books and use it as sort of the backgrounds on tags and things like that. It's got a nice little map in there. Yeah, so that's an interesting book to use. And then, of course, a couple of dictionaries. And just a plain old, ordinary dictionary from, like, school. It's got nice little, it has some nice, the paper's quite nice and thin, so that's, and it's always fun to, pull a specific word for certain people. And then I've got this great big huge one, and it's sort of a gold edging on the side of the pages. And I do use this one, but and it's actually not that old. This was published in 1980, but it looks much older than it is. And the paper's great, and again, it has some great shadowing all around the edges, and it just looks really old. So I really only pull this for sort of the more special journals for some reason, even though, I know I've seen this dictionary at lots of used bookstores, so it's not like it's hard to find or anything like that. And it's got a lot of great pages at the very back as well, about sort of significant points in time and some images and that. I haven't used any of those yet, so that's a fun dictionary though. And it's always good as a junk journaler to have at least one or two dictionaries in your stash. So those are the books that I usually pull from. And then I have a few other things that I normally throw in my junk journal. So this is a little collection of stationery papers that I used to live in Japan, and I would send my grandma. We used to write to each other all the time, and so I would send her little stationery packs from Japan, and sometimes she would use them, and of course sometimes she'd say, oh, it's too pretty to use, and so this one's still, it's still in its packaging. So anyways, I've started trying to use those a little bit, and I think I might make a journal that's just all those. And then I've got an old school exercise book that's almost finished up. And then, of course, whenever I'm at the thrift store and I come across some sort of, you know, accounting paper, grid paper, I'll pick those up, some ledger paper. This was a great pad that I picked up for 50 cents. Great color in it and lots of big pages. And then this one as well, this was 10 cents. And this is like a little ledger pad. So those always come in handy as well. So then I've also got, I thought I would show you, I've got a few books here that I bought to use in my junk journals, but I just haven't found the strength to cut them up yet. So this is a Victorian Book of Days. It's sort of like a desk calendar, I guess, and I thought these big images on the side here would be great in a journal, and maybe they, you know, when I look at it again, I think, okay, well, maybe it's not all that special. I can cut it up. But it's one of those desk calendars that you can use for any year. It doesn't have to be for any specific year. So it's just got some great images in it. So maybe you'll start to see those pop up in some of my journals. And then this one I just recently picked up at the thrift store, The Big Book of Fairies. And the illustrations caught my eye. They're just gorgeous. It's illustrated by Sarah Ruano. And it's a children's book, and it's about all the different types, all the different fairies that are out there, basically. But I mean, look at her drawings; they're just so pretty. And I instantly envisioned them in a junk journal, and then I got it home, and I flipped through it again, and I thought, oh, I can't cut this up. It's too pretty. Look at this one. Isn't that neat? It reminds me a little bit of, I can't remember her name, but there was a movie about the woman who did the drawings with the girls with big eyes. It's a very strange movie, but it was really good. But this is, you know, slightly reminiscent of those drawings. I know where's that other one? There's an image around here somewhere. Well, this one's very cool. Anyways, so we'll see if I find the strength to cut that one up, or just, you know, maybe it becomes my nighttime reading or something. And then I've got these two massive books that are full of old maps. And again, I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to have that. I have to use it. And then I got it home and I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I can cut them up. And they're a little bit shiny anyways, but great color in them. They would look awesome in a junk journal. So I might have to, and it's really just the first half of the book that has the maps. So I might have to start using those. And then this one's really big. I'm not even going to try to pronounce all of that, but it's huge. Look at these papers. I mean, this paper alone, I should probably use this for some end papers. Ooh, it's super thick. It's gorgeous. And it has gilding on the edges. Let's see, what do we have in here? Some black and whites, but then look at these. Ta-da! These are the kinds of things I actually probably would just put in a frame and put up on my wall, because they're that nice. Yeah. Not all of them. Some of these pages I could easily cut up, but but some of them are really great. Super cool. Anyway, so that's my book collection, and I hope you enjoyed that, and hope it gives you a few ideas for your junk journals. And hopefully I will have another junk journal or something else to share with you soon. I've also just come across a heap of vintage sewing patterns, so that's my other passion. If you've looked at my other videos from the past, I did a tour of my sewing pattern collection, and I love vintage patterns. So I just came into a great big box of patterns from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they're gorgeous. So if you're interested in that, leave a comment below, and I'd be happy to do a video sharing all of those very soon. So thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to leave a comment or hit subscribe and like the video, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks. Bye bye.